When this journey started for me, I wasn't looking for anything. I was deep in a depression and I had no plans on trying to come out of it. So, as things unfolded gradually, everything was a surprise. Everything was unexpected. Nothing was even imagined before it happened. And I guess that's what made the way that my situation unfolded feel really special to me, is because I wasn't looking, it found me. And in saying that, it also makes me really cautious or aware of ideas or ideologies that are trying to kind of be pushed down your throat when it comes to being on this path. I wasn't looking for spirituality when I started healing. I was meditating and I was doing things to try to be okay from day to day. And in doing those things, out of them came experiences that I had no other explanation for. And so I decided to call them spiritual. And in calling them spiritual, slowly more and more things were coming toward me that some my own experiences and some from people around me or from videos or channels that I'd looked at out of curiosity. And the thing that I found was that where I am at on my journey is not somewhere that I wish to have influenced by outside sources. I'm happy to engage in conversations, especially with people who are, newly on the journey, like an exploratory thing. But when it comes to people who are well established in this space, I'm trying to be really careful not to be affected by the opinions of other people and by the experiences, and sometimes not even experiences of other people. People latch onto ideas and they get so stuck on these ideas that they start to believe them as truth, When it comes to the exposure to people who are, more experienced, who have been exposed to this life for a longer time, I try to be really cautious not to buy into all the ideas that they come with, because there's a question mark for me next to everything. And somebody telling me that I should believe that something is so because everybody else believes it so, that is not the way I imagine this journey unfolding. The way it has unfolded so far is that everything came to me as an experience. I don't understand it all, and I'm okay with not understanding it all. That's half the beauty, is that there's this world, there's this side of myself that is just so interesting and so curious, so magical. And somebody coming to put a label on that experience doesn't always fit the experience. But the expectation that I should buy into what for me, it's like any movement. I mean, it could be like religion, it could be whatever big movement, and I won't even start to mention some of those that are happening now, but people often lose sight of the truth in all the noise, in all the distractions. And so far, I've managed to kind of stay close to my truth being whatever I've experienced it, whether I can label it or whether I understand it. Whatever it is, it's my experience, it's my truth. The minute there's these outside influences, because now you're spiritual and this is what spirituality means and this is how you should practice spirituality, and it starts to taint the experience. It starts to add a dimension of non-truths. And they may be truths to those people, but they're non-truths to me because I have not experienced those things. So I am basically buying into whatever it is you tell me I should believe. And that's just religion all over again. That's just any other movement that people have latched onto with a good intention or with good cause, but they lose sight of why they're there, of why they're doing it, and the noise takes over, and then when you look again, the meaning of it is just, it's gone. And, you know, speaking of the meaning of it, the meaning of this word awakening. So I never even thought about awakening before all of this. For me, it was a moment where I thought my life was a certain way, and then slowly I started to kind of see things from a very different perspective, and I realized that life is not the way that I thought it was. And that was my realization. That was my turning point. That was the moment that everything shifted for me. And this word awakening started coming up when I started exposing myself to more information around what was happening in my life as the curiosity grew. And there's this movement around this word awakening. Like, everybody's latching onto this idea of what it should look like and what it should be. And for me, if you're looking for it, you've already found it. You're already there. You already know what it is, you know? And the moment I realized that what happened with me was some kind of awakening was the moment that word lost complete power. It takes the power away from that word. The idea that life should be a certain way, and that the idea that awakening should be a certain way, and that you should have this information and this knowledge that nobody else can have, and everybody else must do some special thing so that they can get to this awakening. And it just cheapens the whole thing. So the moment that I realized that I understand why this word awakening is being used, but also how it's being tainted, you know, the moment that understanding came for me is the moment that word lost all its power. Because it was, for me, this realization. You know something, and then you realize that what you know is wrong. So now you know something else. You know, that is all that awakening is. And it's just the realization that life is not the way you think it is. And however that realization comes to whoever it comes to, doesn't matter. The path doesn't matter. None of it matters. What I believe and what you believe, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I see a truth. You see a truth. What is your truth could be different to my truth. My truth is that the way that I imagined life to be from an egoic perspective, it's not that way. That I don't have to be attached to these ideas. I don't have to be attached to whatever societal expectations or expectations from family or from myself or whatever layers have developed that define me over all the years, whatever those layers are, my name, my job, my family relationships, my relationships with romantic partners, my relationships with friends, whatever relationships, whatever we use to define ourselves, my degrees, my car, my apartment, whatever stuff, whatever labels we use, my truth is that those labels do not define me the way that I thought they did. And that could be the truth of many other people. But then we start expecting our truth to be somebody else's truth, and that awakening can only be when somebody else understands it the way we understand it. And that's not a fair expectation. then is that true awakening? What are you awakening to? Somebody else's story? That's not awakening, because then it's still not truth. It's somebody else's truth. It can only be awakening when it's your truth. I guess the idea is just to be mindful of the journey that you're on, and not to just buy into somebody else's ideas of what spiritual enlightenment looks like, or what awakening looks like, or what spirituality looks like. Just to be careful also of who you're consuming and what you're consuming. And I mean, there's a large part of me that would rather have these experiences and try to figure them out for myself and just not understand them, than to have somebody teaching me and telling me that it should be a certain way and that this is what my experiences mean. Because how could they possibly know? Not everybody has good intentions. And whether they have so much experience, more than you, still listen to yourself. Listen to your truth. Listen to your intuition. You'll know what resonates with you and what's not yours. Don't take on things just because somebody who knows more than you told you that this is the truth and you should take it on. I've had moments of experiencing people who haven't even had these experiences, but they speak as though there is nothing more true. How is it that you are selling something that you actually have no idea about? It's just really important to remember that not everything that you are taught, even from people with the best of intentions, is for you, is right, is something that they even know stuff about. Just stay true to yourself. Stay true to your path. What resonates with you, keep that. What doesn't, let it go. Let it go. Maybe one day you'll be in a place where you'll understand what they were talking about. Maybe it is a truth of whatever, and at some point you will be able to understand that truth. But there's no point in pushing yourself into an untruth. And I call it an untruth because it's not your truth, it's somebody else's. So just stay mindful to yourself and to your path, and listen, but don't take everything on. Don't take everything that you hear as fact and as the end all. I think that's the end of my video. That was my dog with the squeaky toy. On a less serious note, thanks for listening.